Here are some book club meeting highlights.
I think I was the last freaking one to finish it. I'm the host, and I'm always the last one to finish the darn book.
No, I think I was the
Girl, it
last
is
one because I
okay.
finished it 5 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Um. So I text Tanasha earlier, um, and I was asking her, "How did you like the book?" And I feel like I'm always in the minority with this group, y'all. But we gonna talk about it. We gonna talk about it because I really love the book. I don't think the existence or like the knowledge of vampires exists in this universe.
Yeah.
Whether and I don't think they exist in this universe in any capacity, whether it's fictional or not. Probably in this universe, they probably never heard of a vampire because no one ever used the word vampire. But I mean, they let you know that this was a vampire. There was no mistaking that. Not
Yeah.
like in House of Hunger, where it was kind of like, are these fucking vampires? You kind of
I
really didn't
don't
know.
know. I felt like
Mm-mm.
I don't know. I didn't feel like they were vampires. She was a vampire. I felt like she was cutting up.
I did it too. When I described it to my husband, he said it sounds like a chupacabra.
Well,
Someone that takes the blood, but it's
Well,
like animal like.
the only I thought she was a vampire right up until the end when uh she her mother gave her permission to turn into that other creature,
Yeah.
and then
Mm-hmm.
she started howling. So I was like, wait a minute, she not a vampire? Is she a fucking
Mm-hmm.
werewolf? But
Right,
Mm-hmm.
everything
right.
but
or
everything
just
they
a scary
described,
Pokemon.
everything they described, every characteristic they described is a characteristic of a vampire. Um,
Even with the
the sun,
dogs
the
following her and
sunlight.
shit.
Yeah, with the dogs following her.
But wait, but what's the definition of a true vampire? Are we going origins? Are we going throughout the realm of like many different years of the evolution of a vampire? So if we're going off the evolution, that it could be any interpretation that they call for. So I
Right,
thought it was
because
really interesting the way she kind of evolved, I guess you can say.
yeah, because in vampire lore, it depends on what lore they're using. There's many different types of vampires depending on what lore they are using. So like in some vampire lore, you can't see them in the mirror, which
Yes.
when every time they tried to videotape her or take a picture of her, it would always come out fuzzy or overexposed. She couldn't be photographed. So that reminds me of how it is in some vampire lore where you can't see them in mirrors and whatnot. But I do have one question here I want to start with. Basically, the first question is, how did the book make you feel? So anybody can jump in. Just make sure that we're listening to whoever's speaking.
I was having a hard time seeing that she was supposed to be a vampire because when my husband told me sound like she a chupacabra, I was like, yeah, because I'm getting like werewolf vibes, and then she's drinking blood, but then the dogs following her hollowing the moon and all that stuff. It was throwing me off, but it
Well,
was like,
you go ahead, finish. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
but like the whole point was that the mother really didn't know what she was. Even the nurse didn't really know what they were. No one really didn't know what they were, you know.
The
And
the
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
the tag. The only so like I was saying before, the point where I thought she was a vampire when her mother gave her that rabbit and she bit into it while I was still alive. I was like, this bitch is a vampire. But then I never doubted that she wasn't a vampire until the end with the whole howling thing. And the only reason I'm still going vampire, not only because of the characteristics, but because of the tag that was under the book on Goodreads, it say vampire. Because I'm
Right.
starting to doubt also, like, okay, wait a minute. But go ahead, Kwame, finish your thought.
But yeah, but I mean, it was more to me more throughout the book that it was telling me like that was giving me things like she's not a vampire. But um, the only thing I've thought that okay, she's a vampire because she's drinking blood, and that was it. But the
And
only
then,
thing was very animalistic
yeah.
behavior, or maybe I don't know. And then the fact that the mother told her like to go to the other person she was, and that other person was very volatile, very animalistic, and it was like, is she a vampire? I don't
Well,
know.
that kind of reminds me of, you guys ever seen that movie Daybreakers? It's starring Ethan Hawke it's a vampire world basically. And when they don't, so basically Moonflower, when she doesn't get the type of blood that she needs as much as she's supposed to drink it, she turns into this other creature. And something similar happened in the movie Daybreakers. So it was humans coexisting with vampires, but like the humans were being hunted and farmed, basically kind of like Tinder is the flesh. But there were some vampires who did not want to participate in the drinking of human blood. And basically, if they don't drink human blood, it's kind of like they're starving themselves. And when they don't get the blood that they're supposed to get, they turn into these monstrous creatures. They turn into something totally different, like a different species of vampires. So that is what that reminds me of. And Moonflower had been a vampire for like 27 years, even though she still looked like a 12-year-old. She's for 15 years, so she's 27. She's been a vampire for like 15 years, so she could actually be hitting like peak like maturity level. I don't know, because the amount of time she needed to eat more blood.
That's what I was about to say. One thing always stays like the same when it comes to like the thirst for blood, and that is the hunger always wins.
Yeah, she started to get more like, usually because they was killing people who deserved it, might I add. I'm not even going against the type of people they was killing. I wrote in the Discord chat, I said, this is to catch a predator, vampire style. Those people, and it was like, because Moonflower was like an animal, she could pick up on people's, like she had these instincts that could pick up on who was a good person and who was a bad person. So they always knew who to kill. But it started to become more frequent. Like she would feed on a human one day, and then the next day she wanted more human blood. Her thirst for human blood was becoming more and more frequent. And because she wasn't getting, that's why it's called Blood Like Mine, because they said in the story, she needs blood like us, like mine. She needs human blood. And if she don't get it, then she turn into this other monstrous freaking creature, which I think is just another step in her evolution. But it was crazy. I don't know. It was crazy. Tanasha just came. Hi, Tanasha.
Hi.
Facing the meeting. That's Shaquanda.
Hi, Shaquanda. Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
And
good.
We were just talking about how the book made us feel.
How it made you feel, and what did you say?
Well, people was just jumping in with a whole bunch of ideas.
Oh, okay.
Do you have any thoughts? Like, how did the book make you feel?
I mean, I think I enjoyed it. It made me feel, it was an enjoyable story, but at first I was confused. So it made me feel very confused at the beginning. And I think I slowly, as the book progressed, I got to like put together the pieces, I think, a lot more. So,
I thought they were really,
but it intrigued me. It intrigued me. I was very intrigued. It piqued my interest. I was very intrigued. I will say from the start, like, what is going on here? So it made the book very fast paced for me to get through.
I think
thankfully,
the more I read the story, the more like, because Shaquanda had mentioned that she doesn't still know quite how to feel about Moonflower. And as I read the story and got closer and closer to the end and then finally completed it, I just started to feel like just bad for everybody in the situation. Like there was no like, no, it wasn't like a cookie cutter, black and white, this is your bad guy and this is your good guy type of story.
Yeah.
It was like a lot of morals and ethics that can come into play that you can discuss in this story. Like who's ethically right, who's morally correct, stuff like that. They both had their reasoning for why. I mean, not both. Everybody in the story had their reasoning for why they were making the choices that they made. And I just started to feel bad for everybody in the situation because I knew the longer I read that this was not going to be a happy ending for anybody. Okay, I felt bad for Donner because he had been chasing down the person that was responsible for all these killings all these years. He got his family issues. Nobody believes him. Even the people who saw what happened, they don't want to say nothing because they know how fucking crazy it sounds. So now he's looking like a crazy person and he just feel like he got to prove himself. And I was like, he's going to fucking die. He's going to get himself killed, which he did. I felt bad for Moonflower because she was just a 12-year-old girl who was walking through the park and got attacked. She ain't asked for none of this shit. You know what I mean? I felt bad for her mother because, like, what would you do if your child died and came back to life? Like, what would you do? Like, this story really...
Well, there is, I don't know if you've seen the movie Grace, but it dealt with a mother that was pregnant, and 8 months into the pregnancy, the baby ends up dying. But when she gives birth to the baby comes back to life. She ends up feeding the baby like chicken blood drippings, but the baby reacts violently until she realizes the baby actually needs human blood. There was no real transition. It was incredibly weird, which is why I'm like, where's the real transition for Moonflower? But I love the connection they had with like the fact that it was snowing outside. It's around Christmas time and they're in the mountains and Donner is there too, which is a wonderful reference to the Donner Party. And I thought that
Oh,
was
yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay, so I have another question for you guys. Like, basically what I was saying, how I felt bad for Rebecca, how she had to uproot her entire life and just go on a run with her child. What would you do if your life changed overnight and you had to leave everything behind?
Yeah, for your kid, I think you
Yeah.
do anything. So I understood the mom a lot. Like I understood her desire to like try to like you don't want to condone what your child's doing, but if you're going to condone it, we're going to get predators, and then or these child predators, whatever, and then she was trying to do everything to try to make sure she was keeping other people out of the fray and staying off the grid and at the same time literally going broke, like doing any and everything so her child doesn't become too far gone into this world and stays her child. She wants her, I mean, we all want our kids to be our little babies forever, don't we? So I get that. I got her attachment, and that's all they've had was really each other, for their life. I mean, her backstory obviously with her dad was sad, and then the what was it? Wait, am I getting stories crossed? Was this the girl that had?
Her
Was this the
father,
girl that had a baby?
she had the baby when she was young, and then the baby father's father, the grandfather, tried to pay the
Yes, try
family,
to
and her father was like,
yes,
"Get the fuck out of here." I loved her father.
yes. I would have still kept that check, but I would have said the same thing. But I wouldn't have thrown the check. I wouldn't have torn up the check because clearly that would have came in handy later. Yes, I was like, okay, this is the one where she had a lot of people just kind of leaving her life. Everything kind of happened that was. I feel bad for her mom because her mom is like everybody left her all of a sudden. Her husband, her mom, her granddaughter, and they were very close. But I did understand the mom. I was definitely like,
I understand Rebecca, the mother's motivations, but this has been going on for 15 years.
Mhm.
She is not a child anymore when you think about it. One of the things I had wrote in my notes was, how long, and I was saying this to myself when I was reading the book, how long are you going to continue to do this? Because you're going to get old one day, or you're going to get hurt, or you're going to die, and you're not going to be able to continue this. Like, you need to start teaching her how to fend for herself, or we need to think about something else, because you can't do this forever. You can't be on the run with your vampire daughter forever, because you're going to still age. She's going to be this way forever, and you're going to be old. Like, but it just goes to show you, like, the sacrifices a mother will make for her child. Like, she was willing to do this for the rest of her life if she had to, if it meant keeping her child alive. But I understood her motivations, but it was very bleak because, like, she has no sort of life, and her daughter don't really have a life either.
Yeah. I did think it was interesting when you think it's really bleak, and then when the nurse said that he can tell that she likes it.
She enjoys it.
In terms of the killing and the looking for prey and stuff. So it's like, does she want it to really end? And now, so I think it would be interesting if there was a sequel, because I'd like to see Rebecca the vampire. That would be interesting.
There's 2 sequels in the works. I actually posted an interview with the author I found on YouTube. I posted it on the Discord. There's 2 sequels in the works. One of them is called Blood Like Ours, because at the end, Rebecca woke up and walked right out the fucking morgue. And then the third one is called Blood Like Theirs. So we're gonna get more story. But I'm glad you. Go ahead, Kwame.
I don't think the detective's dead. I feel like in all that fighting they were doing and shooting, he got some of Moonflower blood in him, and he ain't.
Well,
dead.
he got bit. Didn't he get bit?
I think so. I think he.
That's what Christina told me. Yeah, you had to explain that to me. Yeah.
So they shot him in the head, but I think he's gonna come back too. So we'll have to wait to the sequel to see. I mean, I'm gonna read the sequel. You guys probably won't, but I'm gonna read the sequel because I love it.
But I'm glad you know. I'm glad you know.
You didn't know here, Christina, because Christina loved to roast the books. Yeah. So let's go ahead, Christina.
Well, we talked about this book, and I feel like
ending, I did like the ending. The ending was really good. Yeah. I wanted more of that throughout the whole book. You know what I mean?
He did land, and it got really exciting at the end.
Yeah. I couldn't stand his partner though. I didn't like her at all.
She got on my nerves. I didn't like her.
She pissed me off. Yes. Yes.
She just let everybody think he was fucking crazy.
Yeah. She pissed me off. Even remember at the end when he was like, "Don't tell nobody like what he was doing," and she snitched on him. Yeah. She made me mad. I hated her. She was like the character in the movie that I just like.
Water. Now my mouth's dry. We talking so much.
Yeah.
I'm glad Sophie had brought up the nurse. Because I had that question on here, like, did you think it was fair for him to judge her so harshly?
No, because
who to judge who so harshly?
In his closet too.
Wait, who you say?
For help, I think his name was Gumtree or something like that.
Oh, the guy whose mom was
his mom was
a werewolf.
Yeah.
Y'all think it's a vampire? I'm not sure. I think it's a werewolf. I think she's a werewolf, but I don't know. I don't know what she is or a hybrid. She's something. There was no clarity, but so you said so. What was the question? Because
did you think it was fair of Gumtree to judge her so harshly, to judge Rebecca so harshly? He was the one who was saying that she enjoyed the killing.
It's definitely a question to ask if she's really like enjoying the frenzy, because that creates a whole nother situation. But I don't think I guess I'm kind of on the fence about it.
Is Rebecca the mom? Yes, right. Moonflower's the child. Okay, sorry. It's been a while. Okay, got it. I'm with you guys.
I guess it was kind of harsh to judge because she's dealing with trying to make the best of the situation. But also he's got so much trauma, who knows, how he's reacting to those things too. But
I think he was looking at it because she was trying to normalize that shit. Like, oh, we're just going to be, like at some point, I think she was in denial about what she was. There was definitely some denial going on there.
Yeah, because she kept saying she's human.
Yeah.
She's not
like
human.
You're feeding her fucking animals and pedophiles, bro. She's not human. So I think that's why it was so easy for him to look at her like, yo, you gotta like this. Because you know what I mean? That's how I was I didn't like how they even treated him when they went to his place. He was just like, yo, get out of here. Y'all got a lot going on. Like, respectfully. You know what I mean? So I didn't like that part either. But I maybe he could have kept some of his thoughts to himself because look where it got him. But I understood what he was saying. Like we said, how old was she? So she had been doing this shit for years, driving all across the world in her minivan or whatever she was in. Like, you gotta like this, because why else are you still? And then you think your kid is normal. So I don't know.
Like I said, I understand Rebecca's motivations, and I don't know what I would do in that sort of situation. There's another movie that comes to mind when I was reading this book. Did you guys ever see the movie Blood?
No.
It's a recent movie, so it's very similar to this book. What happens is the child gets infected with something and he needs blood to survive, and the mother is doing everything she can in her power to get this blood to her child because she don't want to lose him again. I just don't know. Like, what terrible things are you willing to do for the people that you love? I don't know what I don't know. Like, at some point though, you would have to say enough is enough. Like, when is enough going to be enough? When are you going to be tired of living like this? But she was already too far in it, like too deep in it. You know what I mean? Like, her face had been all over the news. She wanted posters. Like, she got to leave the country if she would ever think about living a normal life. At some point, I think she would have to let her child go, teach her how to fend for herself, and just let her go. I mean, she's 27 years old now. I don't know. Usually they said people don't even last that long. Those type of people. But it was because of Rebecca that Moonflower lasted that long.
Yeah, because I think like she would have either been like caught, slaughtered, or like, you know, because she was, I mean, from what I remember, I feel like she wouldn't have had hesitation. Like, she wasn't smart. She was going to be very impulsive and like do things that really could have got her hurt. So I think that's why not only was her mother protecting her from that possibility, but she was also protecting her or protecting the public. Because, you know, you love your child, but you don't want your child to kill innocent people. And really, she didn't have that. She wasn't able to decipher. She almost killed that homeless woman who was just chilling in the warehouse.
Yeah, when she started to become more animalistic, she would go after
Yeah. And I think had she continued but had she been drinking human blood as often as she wanted to from 10 years ago, she would have already been there. This only happened more recently because she was, you know, indulging, I guess, in this a little bit more. So who knows where she would have been now? Probably not alive at all. So I think her mom, you know, had a point. She may not have even survived to this point. So she was in like between a rock and a hard place. I mean, who has to come through that? Who has to make that decision in life? Not, do I want my child to, like, we don't have that. That's not a real, you know, that is a once in a billion chance. So I think she did the best she could with what she was, you know, presented with. But yeah, I understand the need to like let her go, but she probably wouldn't have. She would have been just eating everything on site because she would have been let loose.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would have been let loose. So,
protecting.
But do you guys think it's going to get to that point anyway?
Well, I think now that Rebecca
now
that Rebecca is one herself, I think in the sequel it'll be like us following Rebecca's trying to find her daughter, which, because they're now the same species, she should be able to find her fairly easy. And then seeing the obstacles and the things they have to overcome now that both of them need to feed. I don't know. That's going to be a little bit tricky. I don't. Any other thoughts?
Well, did I miss anything when I jumped on? Like, I was telling Kiara earlier, I didn't see this book as a horror book. Did you guys feel this was a horror book? What kind of genre of book did you think this was?
I think it was more like suspense with a bit of horror and a good like thriller. That's what I think it was.
I would say more of that too. I thought it was even a little true crime. Like when it first started, I was like, this is a true crime book. Like I just was like, oh, it's like a whounit. It's like, what's going on? We're on the trail.
I classified it as a horror thriller. That's just me.
I agree, and I see why people probably would. I think after reading it, I was kind of like, oh, we still need a horror book on our agenda next.
Well, the thing is, it could be any type of horror book, but one person might find it horrifying while another person may not, because there are different facets, different levels of fear, different levels of horror. And so like everybody has their own idea of what's scary to them, what they are afraid of. And it's like when we're reading different horror stories or whatever, we kind of like you kind of have to like be open to the diversities of fear. Like you kind of got to acknowledge the diversity of fears when you're reading different horror stories, because not all horror and not all fears are created equal. This book,
I really like the action scenes. I like the action scene when she went to the
police station.
The police
she
station.
went there with
and
that.
she was going ham, and I was like, "Oh my god, everybody get out of there! Get out of there!" I was like, she was not messing around. Her mama was in there, and she was not messing around.
She tore that
And then that's when we really got to see kind of what her skill set was, because I didn't realize anything was wrong with this little girl until I know you had mentioned when you picked the book, you were like, well, I don't know if it's vampire. Like you were like, it has hashtag vampires, but there really wasn't any detail like to kind of say what it was or whatever. And then when she ate the rabbit, that's when I said, oh, something's going on here. That was kind of like my first clue. But really before then, I was kind of like, well, I'm not sure if this is related to that. But then when she got into the police station, I was like, oh, she's a badass.
Well,
that was really like intense.
Yeah, it was action packed, that part. It was a couple of things that was really action packed. But going back to the vampire thing, when she attacked the people in the police station, she had bit somebody, and the whole time I was like, he's gonna turn. When Donner went to go visit him, he said he couldn't be in the sunlight. He was in that room with the curtains drawn. Vampires, werewolves don't give a fuck about sunlight. They can come out in the daytime. Vampires are the only creatures I know that cannot go out in the sun. That is why I'm sticking to vampires.
I mean, I think that's actually, you know more about this than I do. This vampire and like what the do's and don'ts, and our new member here. Y'all are far exceeding what I know, and Solby too. I know Solby's a big vampire person, so I'm gonna trust what it is. The only reason I wasn't sure when I was talking to Christina was because she was doing all that howling at the end. And howling with the dog, and was hanging out with the dogs and stuff. I was like, so maybe she's some sort of animal, you know.
I think we mentioned that before you came on. That was the only part of the story that gave me pause at the end when she started howling. I was like, wait a minute. So I understand that, but there was too many other little details. Like even when she tried to switch her mother, when her mother got shot in the chest, and she said, I can save her. She bit into her own wrist and tried to put her blood into her mother. And we've seen that. I've seen that on Midnight Mass, which is a vampire story, a show on Netflix. You got to go watch that. That is how they turn people into vampires. And they also did the same thing in Interview with the Vampire. They had to put Lestat had to put his blood into Louis in order to actually turn him. So I don't know. It's maybe what Kwame said, maybe she half and half or something. It's something, because I never heard. It might be some vampire lore that I'm not familiar with the howling. So I have to look into that. But that was the only part of the story that gave me pause.
Right.
Other than that, everything else spoke vampire to me. Get off my screen.
Yeah, to me too. It was only those parts where I was like, well, these dogs are like gravitating towards her. She seemed to like kind of guide them. And this was throughout the story. These animals, they really highlighted how the animals would gravitate towards her, or the dogs in particular. And then at the end, that whole like scene, which was very well like illustrated, like the scene, you know, how it ended. And but yeah, I wasn't sure, but my expertise is not as refined. You know what I'm saying? Was anybody else pissed that Donor didn't go see his family? I'm so sick of. Oh my god! I was like, let this case go. Go see your family. I was so upset. You literally gave up your. You had one chance.
He was obsessed with this case. He was like, I gotta know who she is. He was so obsessed with it.
I know. It was like, it reminded me of Squid Games when I was like, what are you doing? Get on the plane. What are you doing? Dummy. These men.
I wish they had given us more about Chin too, and his transformation. And
you know what, Christina, I wanted more with Chin. I was like, I wanted more dreams about killing his family because he was turning. into something. He's like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm so hungry. I can't go out in the sunlight.
They gave us a little piece. Like it wasn't even much.
I thought
that's a good point. That's a good point.
I thought it was gonna come back to that, and we was gonna find out that he devoured his family, and that was gonna be like the catalyst to make Donald want to go after this other woman, because he just, what the hell bit her? Why did he turn into this thing? But then they just gave us like a phone call or something. Oh, he blew his brains out. I wanted to see the build up to that. I really did, but I think
good point.
maybe they was trying to, because this story, like when you're writing a story, if you ever look at a story map or whatever, it starts out like this and then it builds like a roller coaster and then it takes you down. So maybe the author thought that would pull us out of the part of the story where we was at the moment. But that would have been really interesting if we would have saw more about Ken, because he was turning. Okay. And really quickly, this book reminds me of one of my favorite books of all time, Let the Right One In. I'm always talking about this book. It's also a vampire story. Let the Right One In is just 10 times better than this one. There is a part in that story where somebody, an innocent person, gets bit, but they take us back to that scene and they let it play out and you see what happens. So it would have been cool if they did something like that with Ken.
Yeah. Agreed. She was leaving breadcrumbs though too everywhere she went.
Oh my God. I wrote that in the Discord.
I felt like she could have been she was being a little obvious.
Yeah, I said, because let me tell you, you don't really, when you come across a random stranger, you're not really going to even think about that person. But if they do something that's out of the ordinary or do something strange or give you an attitude for no particular reason, you're going to tend to remember that. You know what I mean? Like if she just be cool, no one's going to give her a second glance. Like when the lady came to offer her the food when they was at that campground, just take the fucking food. Like your ass was hungry anyway.
Yes.
Just take the food. Otherwise it's going to seem suspicious. I don't know.
Right. You got your daughter, like, I mean, I don't know if she would have let her, but it seems like because you were restricting her so much, you were making her crave going out and talking to people and doing, so maybe you pressed too hard, which, as parents, we try to, like I see the push and pull there, but that was, I think, backfiring on her, and causing it to be very obvious that something they were odd, something was wrong, and draw more attention.
Her holding tight onto her and telling her you can't go out, you can't do this, it might have something to do with the fact that when she was human, she wasn't that type of parent, and that's how she got bit, because she was walking through the park by herself. I guess her mother was late picking her. I can't remember the circumstances, but she would walk through the park to get home, and maybe she thinks if I was just keeping a better eye on her, this would not have happened. Besides the fact of her being a vampire, it could go, she don't want her to eat innocent people. That could be another reason why she held on to her so tightly and kept her like under lock and key. For instance, I would recommend this book, and I would recommend it to maybe a crime thriller reader who's looking for something with a horror aspect. That's who I probably would recommend this book to. So, what's your rating?
I liked it. I would give it a 4.
Trader.
All right.
I feel like
I liked it. 3.5 is good.
like it more than people who
I gave it 5 stars. I love the damn book.
It was not a 5-star. You are pushing it. Oh my God.
So it gave her a 5-star experience.
Right. I'm gonna spend.
Here we go. What we got?
So nervous. Oh my God.
Oh, I heard this is a good one.
The last
Okay.
Please keep in mind that these are just highlights from our book club meetings. These aren't the book club meetings in its entirety. If you'd like to get in on the conversation and get in on the fun, then please consider joining the book club. You can comment down below or send me an email if you're interested in joining.